Hi there, this is Dr. Komal, and in this lesson I will talk about the structure and function of mitochondria. Here is a picture of eukaryotic cell, and these brown colored structures are mitochondria. Mitochondria are tubular or sausage shaped organelles, and they are among the larger organelles of the cell, each one being about the size of an E. coli bacterium. Mitochondria, they are so large in size that they can be seen with the help of a light microscope, but the fine details of their structure can only be studied with the help of an electron microscope. Mitochondria are present in all types of eukaryotic cells. And most eukaryotic cells contain many mitochondria, that these mitochondria collectively occupy 25% of the volume of their cytoplasm. So that shows how important these mitochondria are for the cell. Mitochondria are also called the powerhouses of the cell because they are the principal sites of ATP synthesis, and most of the ATP which a cell needs comes from mitochondria. Now coming to the structure of mitochondria. So here you can see the 3D and 2D structures of mitochondria. Mitochondria is bounded by two membranes, an outer membrane and inner membrane. Outer membrane is smooth, okay, and inner membrane has numerous invaginations in the form of cristae. These are cristae. Now these two membranes, they divide mitochondria into two compartments, an outer compartment and inner compartment. So the outer compartment is called intermembrane space, and it is the space between the two mitochondrial membranes, the outer membrane and the inner membrane. And the space which lies inside the inner mitochondrial membrane, this is called matrix, okay, and the intermembrane space is continuous with the lumen of each cristae. This space and this space, they have the same composition. In the matrix you can see mitochondrial DNA, mitochondrial ribosomes, and all along the cristae and as well as on the inner membrane, these twin particles are present. These are called ATP synthase particles or F0, F1 complexes. Here you can see more clearly these bulb-like structures, these green structures, these are ATP synthase particles, and these synthesize ATP, and they are present on the cristae as well as on the inner membrane. So that's all about the structure. So now let's discuss a bit more about the mitochondrial matrix. As I already told that mitochondrial matrix is the compartment which lies inside the inner mitochondrial membrane. So this is the mitochondrial matrix. Now let's discuss the composition. Mitochondrial matrix, it contains a wide variety of enzymes, including the enzymes which are involved in pyruvate oxidation and Krebs cycle, and this will become more clear to you once I discuss the function of mitochondria later in this lecture. Mitochondrial matrix also contains several identical copies of mitochondrial DNA genome, and mitochondrial ribosomes are also present in the matrix. These ribosomes, these are smaller in size to the cytosolic ribosomes. tRNAs are also present in the mitochondrial matrix, and matrix also contains enzymes which are required for the expression of mitochondrial genes. So here we can see that mitochondria has its own genetic material, and mitochondrial matrix also contains the machinery which is required for the expression of mitochondrial DNA. So we know that mitochondria has its own genetic material, has its own DNA, but still it is heavily dependent on nucleus. Why? Because most of the proteins which are found in mitochondria are not encoded by the mitochondrial DNA but are encoded by the genes present in the nucleus. And this includes even mitochondrial DNA and RNA polymerase, which are required for mitochondrial DNA replication. And mitochondrial DNA only encodes for ribosomal RNAs, tRNAs, and few polypeptides which are found in the inner mitochondrial membrane. Now let's discuss some important points about the outer and inner membrane of mitochondria. These two membranes of mitochondria are structurally and functionally different from each other. Outer membrane of mitochondria is smooth and contains transmembrane channel proteins which are called porins. So these are porins. Ions and most small molecules of up to 5000 Daltons can readily pass through these porins. And because of these porins, outer membrane is more permeable than the inner membrane of mitochondria. Now, inner membrane of mitochondria is not smooth like outer membrane and has numerous invaginations which are called cristae. These cristae they increase the total surface area of the inner membrane. Embedded in the inner membrane are the proteins for oxidative metabolism. And these proteins, in order to accommodate these proteins, inner membrane increases its surface area by having these invaginations which are called cristae. In contrast to the outer membrane, inner membrane is highly impermeable and most ions and molecules they require special membrane transporters in order to cross it. Apart from ATP synthase particles, inner membrane also contains electron transport chain. So here you can see this electron transport chain which is made up of intramembrane proteins, and these proteins can transport electrons from electron carriers like NADH to oxygen. Another important point about inner membrane is that 76% of it is made up of proteins. And it is rich in cardiolipin, which is a phospholipid, and this cardiolipin is also called as diphosphatidyl glycerol. So now coming to the function of mitochondria. Mitochondria are the principal sites of ATP synthesis, or we can say that most of the ATP which a cell requires comes from mitochondria. Now, in order to harvest energy from glucose in the presence of oxygen, these 4 steps are required. Okay, the first step is glycolysis. This step does not require oxygen and it occurs in cytosol, and this converts glucose into pyruvate. Pyruvate is an energy-rich compound, and a lot of energy can be extracted from it. Now, in order to extract energy from pyruvate, these 3 steps are required, and all these 3 steps they occur in mitochondria. Pyruvate, after entering mitochondria, it undergoes pyruvate oxidation, and rest of these 2 steps also occur one after the other, and this generates numerous ATP molecules. Okay, so these 3 steps together they generate 30 ATP molecules, which is a huge number as compared to 6 ATP molecules generated by glycolysis. So without mitochondria, a cell cannot extract energy from pyruvate. So mitochondria are very important for the cell. That's why they are called the powerhouses of the cell, because all these 3 stages of aerobic respiration they occur in mitochondria. Okay, and bulk of the ATP supply which a cell needs comes from mitochondria. So that's all about the function and structure of mitochondria. If you like the lecture, please hit the like button and do subscribe to KC Science Talks and press the bell icon so that you do not miss any lecture. Thank you.